So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. So Holger, welcome to SME Session. It's a pleasure having you here. I think the first time we got in touch was about 2 years ago. The power of LinkedIn. It's amazing the kind of things that we're able to do and the kind of connections that we're able to make. So I'm so happy that you're here today. Just a quick introduction for our participants. Our speaker, today's session, first of all, is called Growing Your Business in Africa. And our speaker is Holger Vogt. So I hope I pronounced the last one correctly. Holger Vogt is a Market Entry Strategist, private sector development specialist, and entrepreneur with 16 years working on the continent of Africa. Currently, he's a managing director of AMENA Africa, a Pan-African market advisory firm headquartered in Nairobi in Kenya, with his subsidiaries in Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa. He's also a serial entrepreneur who has lived and worked in several countries since 2005. And in this episode, he's gonna help us to explore how we can actually grow our businesses in other African countries. So most of us are probably having a business within one geographical area. So that would probably be one of the things we'll talk about. But there are a couple of other things that we will be touching on. So Holger, back to you.
Thank you so much, Alfred. It's a pleasure being here, and I'm very much looking forward to that session. So thanks for inviting me.
Thank you very much. I hope I did. The bio was fine. Just check. If I missed anything, please do share. So
absolutely, I think more is less. So let's focus on the important parts. So
good.
I'm very much looking forward to discussing, and thanks for everyone for tuning in tonight.
Good. So maybe my very first question is, you went to Africa, or you came to Africa, depending on where the listener is, and then you slowly you started your entrepreneurship journey in Africa, which is probably one of the hardest places for anyone to start a business. And you told me about you starting a business in Zimbabwe, and then Zambia, then South Africa, and since then you have been moving. You've been growing your business. Obviously, there have been lots of challenges along the way. So maybe my first question would be, why Africa? Because surely you could have started a business in Germany, you could have started a business in Estonia, or there are plenty of choices. Why Africa?
Maybe if you don't mind me being cheeky, I would counter ask and say, why not? Yeah. but coming back, I think maybe I will go a few years back in history. So I started my Africa journey back in 2005. I'm German originally, so probably less not the person who should be starting businesses on ground, but I guess due to the years on the continent and the experiences, and I believe also the great people I met on the continent and during all those years, I think it was natural for me to now discover what is it that we can do on the continent. So I came as a young chap. Back then I was 21 years old. And I came with that intention of being hungry for adventure. I think that's how I came to the continent. Back then, I did the typical, let's say, how Europeans often end up on the continent, the development route. And I very quickly realized how much potential each and every person I met has on this continent. I mean, whoever you meet is somehow an entrepreneur. Right? If they know it or not, that's a different story. But one way or the other, people are always doing something. right? Having or being raised in Europe, in Germany, I think I've never been exposed as much to the business mindset, which I sometimes feel kids on the continent are born with, right? And I think that was extremely impressive to me. And I think also coming to your point of saying it's one of the most difficult regions, I think it's one of the most easiest regions. Because what I realized is if you compare, and probably I hope this is going to be my only comparison tonight, but if I compare, let's say, the opportunities on the continent throughout the markets, I think there's no difference. And compared to the European opportunities, I think we have much greater opportunities here. What is lacking sometimes is the understanding of how can I make those opportunities work, right? And that is, I think, something that maybe I'm privileged in that sense to have seen both sides, because I think once you come here with a very open mindset, and let's say I totally understand if you grow up somewhere, it's you only see what you want to see, right? And if no one sort of shows you different routes, it's sometimes hard to see beyond. It's a bit like, think about wherever you grew up, no matter where in the world. If someone comes and visits you,
yeah,
right, you show them the sights, you show them the nice spots. And they often ask you, oh, can I go to this place because I read about it? And you yourself, who grew up there or lived there, probably didn't know about it. And I think that's the narrative of how I came to the continent. I was very eager to learn. I was very keen to understand. I was fascinated by the cultural heritage back then in South Africa, where I had the privilege to live for some time. And at the same time also to see how much you can make with little resources. Right. And I think that's really something that stuck to me with me over the years, to really see what is it that we can do with whatever we have and make it work. And I think we all agree, people, you know, who either live here or who work here or grew up here, is there's so much we can do, but it's not always easy. Right. And I think that's probably where the difficulty comes in that you mentioned. But it's only, well, let's say, you know, Nelson Mandela once said that it's always impossible until it's done.
Yes.
And I think that's really what stuck with me, and that's, I think, how I ventured into the countries, the continent. I was very privileged, I think, having the opportunity to move between countries. So I'm currently living in Kenya. So that's my fourth country on the continent which I can consider home. Yeah, I think the journey is not ending yet, and I'm very much looking forward seeing what else this beautiful continent has to offer to us. But I think in the end, it all comes down to understand the opportunity, and then at the same time try to think about small steps. How can I now participate in that opportunity and eventually make it work?
Interesting. So, as the managing director of AMENA Africa, could you tell us just shortly what does AMENA Africa do?
Sure. So AMENA Africa, we are basically a Pan-African market advisory firm, and we work mainly with private sector companies from across the globe, and we support them either on their way into African markets, or we support them on growing in African markets. So we're a classical advisory firm that works in the field of market entries, and we support our clients from A to Z. That means from the conception of their business idea up to the implementation of it. And again, we have a very strong Pan-African ambition. We are currently set up in 4 countries physically, with growth plans to add at least 2 more locations in the next 3 years. And it's very much tapping into the opportunity of supporting firms being successful in market. Because what I realized over the years is, we often talk about, or a lot of companies talk about Africa or the continent generally, but not many companies know or understand African markets, right? And then they venture off somewhere else. And that's where we come in as AMENA Africa, and where we're trying to bridge that gap and really support them doing business. And well, one of our mission is to, what we always say, accelerate Africa's potential. And I think that's very much the core of what we do here at AMENA Africa.
And so maybe one thing I'll be interested to learn a little bit. When we talk about market entry, because it's not a terminology that is often used or something that most SMEs do not know about. So this is probably something that large organizations they quite understand, and they are actually willing to pay someone to just help them with developing the right strategy to enter into a new market. So tell us, as an SME owner, why should we have an understanding of market entry when we're looking to grow our business, whether it's within the same geographical market and looking to develop into a different sector, or going to a completely different geographical market?
Yeah, well, I believe you're right. When it comes to, let's have a look at our typical clientele, it's the, let's say, mid-sized family-owned businesses, multi-nets as well, of course, all the companies that physically would like to expand and struggle to do business in a particular market. But narrowing it down, I think, also to a startup, because more and more we're also working with startups, particularly fintechs, e-health companies, etc. And I think it doesn't matter like how big or small you are. It's about your product. Do you believe that your product has a market elsewhere? And have you gained the right experiences in the market where you started off to now replicate, amend, and enter a new market? And of course, I mean, this is my bread and butter, so I'm a little bit biased here, I'm afraid. But at the same time, it's a bit like a reality check, right? Think about you as a business owner. You build your company. You're probably successful, but you're very much biased about what you do, how things should be done. And now you enter a new market and you think like, oh, look, let's pick Kenya. Say, okay, Kenya has been successful. Let me go to, I don't know, a bigger market, let's say Nigeria, right? And you all of a sudden realize, oh, it's a whole different ballgame here. Yes, the fundamentals of your business and your products are probably the same, but you might have to adapt to the local market environments. You might also face certain challenges. It could be regulatory problems. It could be the client's, let's say, purchasing habits, you know. And, you know, to get an understanding of how a market works, we usually tend to say it's worth your while, and of course the money you invest, to get a reality check from an external source who has no stake in your firm, who has no hard feelings about what you do. The only ambition you have as a consultant, or we have as a firm, is to ensure that you do meaningful business in the future, right? Yeah. And for that, I believe, no matter, it's not about the ticket size, it's not about the size of your company, it's also about how serious are you about your product and your company, and you want to grow it in the market. If you do it yourself, great, I'll applaud you, but I'm sure the hustle you can save by contracting an external source to offer assistance can take you much further than just looking into the initial investment cost.
Great. So if I am, let's say, a medium enterprise owner, which probably they may find this more interesting, what would you say? What are the considerations for a medium enterprise owner to say, okay, now I think I've exhausted this market? What are the parameters, or what are the metrics?
Well, I think it all starts with the question, are you successful in your home market? If the answer is yes, it probably is worth your time thinking about expansion. And it's probably also the time, might not be tomorrow, but at least having plans and also understanding what's next, right? Yes, there are firms that say, well, you know, our market is so big, I can't even supply it. I can't even cover it, you know. So I think these are the wrong companies, the wrong guys to now consider an expansion. But especially, let's say, if we see the startup scene or even scale-ups, I would call them, and you mentioned SMEs who are usually well established. For them to stay relevant, they have to explore new markets. I mean, you will not find a successful market leader who is not represented in several markets in the world, right? And I think if you're serious about your business and if you have a clear ambition and growth plans, then new markets are basically the next natural step, right? And in order to do that, it would now be the question of, okay, where do I go? So let's say if you are in Ghana, for instance, a very nice market, relatively boutique, easy to maneuver. You might now say, okay, well, look, I developed that product. I have XY service that I offer. My next step is Nigeria. Yeah, 200 million people, Lagos as a main city, up to, I think no one knows how many people live in Lagos, but let's assume 20 million plus minus. That's your reality check, right? And moving there also will test your products and will also test you as a business owner to see, are you ready for the world, right? And I don't think there's a difference of where you want to expand in the world. The processes are the same. You know, you're looking for market potential. You're looking for, let's say, where can I be in the next 3 to 5 years? What do I need to do? What are my my strategies when it comes to localizing or amending my product? Are there any changes I have to make to it in order to be considered successful? And certainly it all comes down to the fundamentals of, you know, knowing who's in the market, who are my competitors, right? A bag of salt sells differently in Ghana than in Nigeria. It's a fact, right? So is my is my product ready for the market price-wise? Can I keep up with it? And then, of course, the questions come up now. Once I understand and I decide for market, how do I actually enter? Where do I start? Do I take a plane and go there? Yes, that's what you have to do, but it doesn't mean that you do successful business, right? So how do I structure my team? Where do I get them from? Because as much as your product is probably great and you as an individual are probably doing a good job, but you will never scale unless you delegate tasks to your employees. So how do I set up my team? These are, I think, all questions that, you know, young and also older entrepreneurs ask themselves once they explore new markets. And this is often a similar pattern. But I think key, especially on the African continent, is to really listen and be humbled once you enter a new market, because you are new, right? So the market will remain, right? If you're successful, it's down to you. The market does not care.
Interesting. So you have already answered my question, which was I was actually trying to think whether the expanding to other markets is something that only for large organizations or SMEs they can also think about that. So you have answered that. So maybe the next would be, you talked about building teams. How personally, you know, within your own business, how did you go about building teams that are diverse? Especially, I would understand building team within one market. So coming from Tanzania, if I needed to build a team in Tanzania, probably it would be completely different from me building a team that comprises of Tanzanians and Zambians and Ghanaians and Nigerians. So how do you navigate that?
Well, it's simple, but it's also very difficult. And I think what I see a lot, particularly, let's say in the startup world, there's a lot of hire and fire. It's that mentality of like, okay, let's get someone. If it doesn't work, let's get a new one. And fortunately and unfortunately, we have a lot of talent on the continent, right? So fortunately for, let's say, companies like ours, we have a lot of very high-skilled talents in markets, right? Who, if you look at it from an international perspective, are basically offered to you on a very affordable rate, right? That's now the pure capitalist speaking. Now, that doesn't mean that you build a great team, right? If you just hire, no. In our case, we will probably look for the ex-McKinseys and BCGs and so on and so on. But what I learned over the years is, or to give you a different story, I think maybe it's a bit more relevant. I do not read cover letters, and I only read the first page of your CV, right? Whatever you get. It's a waste of my time to read your cover letter. What I'm looking for when I look for new staff is, has the person been educated well? What university did they go to? And what's their general work experience? What language do they speak, of course, you know? Once someone caught my attention on that level, I would then most likely invite the person for an interview. At the same time, something that we explored as a firm is to use video recruiting on the continent, because I can tell you for a fact, once we put out a job advertisement, we have hundreds of applicants. It's fantastic. But think about, we are a boutique firm. Who handles them? Who goes through all the details? And there's nothing worse, I think, as a job seeker. You put all the effort to write your application, and all you get back is a lousy email. Oh, thank you so much for your time. You've not been selected. If you actually get that email, a lot of them hear nothing, right? So video recruitment in our case is very powerful because I can very quickly tell whether or not that person can handle a client meeting or not, right? You find a lot of fancy CVs, they're written by I don't know who, and then you meet the person and they can hardly add one and one together. You know, but coming back to the team thing, I think it's all about efforts of the firm. What type of team do you want to build? Do you believe in the common goal, right? If I look at, let's say, my current firm, AMENA Africa, I don't hire based on a scheme, saying like, okay, only people with economic degrees, only people with 5 years McKinsey experience. No, you know, we are consultants. That means I'm looking for skill sets, right? So I'm looking for people who are being able, that I can train, that I can shape, right? As long as you're motivated, right? We hire people right out of school, right? No work experience, no nothing. But I could tell from the interviews and the application, etc., that person's hungry. You know, he or she wants to grow. They believe in that greater vision for the continent, right? And that's what we need. And I think that very much reflects the team. On the other hand, on the flip side, what I've also seen is, unfortunately, and I'm generalizing here now, here on the continent, we have that culture of, you know, going to work to get money. We all do that, right? But there's a difference. If I just show up at work to get my paycheck, or do I fundamentally believe in what I do? Do I actually enjoy it, right? And yes, that's a lack of jobs for sure. People aim for security, they aim for money, they aim for paychecks. But I think if you're a business owner, you will not go far with such people, right? You need people who really understand. And I think now, and that's sort of, I think, building the team culture, it's also about incentivizing people Because one thing is to say, and you have those, I think across the continent, you have those managers who say, well, if you don't perform, you're out, I take the next one. Okay, fair enough. You know, how motivated are you as a person to work for that firm? You're not. The first, I don't know, 1,000 shilling more you get per month, you jump on that, you go, you move, right? But if you believe in the mission, if you're incentivized, if you're part of that growth story, trust me, people go a long way here. But selecting them, it's tough. But at the same time, we have an abundance here on the continent when it comes to this type of talent. Yeah. But it's very much a cultural thing. If you grew up being taught saying like, get a job and work for the money and go home at 5 o'clock, okay, fair enough, right? Then you might want to consider, I don't know, being a cashier or something like that, you know. That's exactly where you end up. But if you want to build something, and I think the topic here is also for entrepreneurs, you need people that carry your head. And my experience so far was that I was shocked in a positive way and surprised, you know, what happens if you give people trust, you know. Don't just give them money or paychecks, give them trust. Once they get trust, they carry you to spheres you wouldn't have imagined you might reach.
Yeah, I'll probably want to talk on that on trust, because I had a case of someone who was struggling to trust his employees, and so the impression that I was getting was that they probably. He was not giving opportunity, or she was not giving opportunity for that person for his employees to take ownership of the work. How would one find a balance between protecting their business? Obviously, as a small business owner or even medium enterprise owner, you probably you have built something, is your baby, and then you reach a point where you need to start letting go some of that of I wouldn't say power, I would say probably some parts of the business to be under the management of a person who is not an owner. So how would you balance between giving away some control of the business and trusting that person who will do the job, but also being able to oversee at the same time, having some sense of control of what's going on the business?
Yeah, I think if you look at it from a business owner's perspective, not trusting or holding on to whatever you're holding on to is the start of the end. You know, because you gave the narrative of a baby, right? Who walks faster? The baby that is kept in a safe, guarded environment, or the baby that just tries, falls down quite a lot of times, probably cries a few times, but it walks very fast, you know? And I think the same method applies to businesses. The sooner you're able to hand over, to delegate, to trust in the people you work with, because you hired them. I mean, if you cannot trust the person you hired, then why do you hire them in the first place? You know, so, you know, if you don't trust someone, then I don't know, become a police cop or something like that. No, but don't run a business. And I think that's the recipe. Let people run. And I mean, here at AMENA we have one rule. Well, we have a few rules, but one of the rules is make any mistake, and I mean any, no matter how severe or, sorry my French, how stupid the mistake is, but don't make it twice. Like, learn from it. And one thing I learned from my times working in the development sector is it's about building ownership, right? Yes, you are employed, you're an employee. You know, people have their thoughts about what an employee is supposed to do. But an employee, in the end, is a mini business owner, right? It means that person is very dedicated in that specific field it should work in, and is being hired to perform in. That's their small business. That's their horizon to now move around and do good and excel. And if people realize that they own something, I mean, okay, there are shares and whatever it's going to be, but it doesn't even, you don't even have to give money or any value to it. It's more being valued in terms of what you do, appreciation, right? If you do a task and you've done it well, it's your baby. You brought it from the idea now to you realize the project. That's your baby. You've done well. So acknowledge it. You know, it's something you as an owner probably would not have done because either you don't have the time, you don't have the, I don't know, the skills exactly. But now someone around from who you hired a few months ago is now showing you, oh, look, this is how we should do it. Fantastic, you know. So I think in that light, it's all about letting it loose, you know, in a way.
So that's also giving ownership for employees. They need to take ownership of what they do, but also the business owner should not probably stamp at the end and say, this is my work, by doing a little bit of and taking that ownership away, and that sense of ownership from employees, which disempowers them, and they become demotivated because then they don't feel like they're being appreciated.
Absolutely, you know, and I think being able to, let's say, present your findings to a client or to whoever, right? That's the biggest recognition you can get while you're both business owners in the same room, right? But you are the one who's walking through that door, right? Certainly, whoever you work for, ideally, not everyone does it, has your back, right? If you mess up, someone will have your back. But you who is basically the source of the innovation or whatever it is, you know, you walk through that door and you take the credit, right? And I think that's the biggest asset companies can have. But if you don't appreciate that, so if you don't acknowledge it, then it backfires in the end of the day, one way or the other.
That's very true. That's what may to make one employee decide to go to another company. So when we have Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and it has been quite advocated at the moment, though there's still slow progress. What do you think things that hinders local businesses from venture, even the ones that are ready to actually venture into new markets? When you look at them, you have a sense that they're quite established in those markets. Probably they have already exhausted the opportunities for that market. What do you think hinders them from exploring to the other markets within Africa, or even other partnerships within Africa?
You know, it's one of my favorite topics, the after. Being European, I've seen how the European Union is trying to, you know, ease trades, movement of people, have one currency, basically to centralize a lot of things. And now we're talking about Africa, 54 countries, 54 very proud countries, if I may say, where it's hard to even have regional blocks, right? So if I now see, let's say, my region here in East Africa, we have the ESC. I mean, I don't want to judge if it works or not, but all I can tell you is that I can't move to Tanzania while applying for a visa, being a resident. Okay, I'm foreign, fair enough, yeah, but I can't move. Sending my cargo from Mombasa to Kigali, I pay a hell of a lot of money, you know, and I also pay pocket money to people to smooth the access. And we're talking about, let me call it the beast, the big beast of 54 countries, to unify them in an environment where people enjoy asking what's in for me. So I may say it quite directly. It's tough, right? I'm a very big advocate for intra-Africa trade, because I think that's the greatest opportunity we have on this continent. You know, I see a lot of business people saying, oh, I want to go to Europe, or I want to export to Asia. Okay, good luck. You know, the question is why? Why do I have to bring my avocados to China if I can bring them to Uganda? You know, my next door neighbor.
Yes.
Why? I don't need it. So I think the greatest opportunity for us on the continent is the after, if we would act within existing frameworks and liberalize those frameworks. Because if you look at, I think, recent stats is something like, I think Africa trades with each other like 15%.
Yeah.
So 15, you know, it's nothing, you know. So why do I go through, and let's go back to my avocados. Why do I go through rigorous processes to apply for licenses in Europe, you know, who just are very cherry picky and just select the best, whereby this avocado can be traded next door, you know? And to me, that's a myth. I think especially for small businesses, will it have an effect? Probably yes. It probably would have. You have the ability to now, let's say, I don't know, move to a different country a bit easier. But I personally think as long as we don't overcome the key challenges, and it starts with movement. I mean, as a Kenyan going to South Africa, you need to apply for a visa. Why? You know,
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense at all, right? And if you now look into our cost of moving cargo from A to B, it's crazy. You know, if the border's blocked, the border's blocked. Your cargo is stuck there. Daily rates of a container, you can imagine how much more cost you incur, right? And that means now for the consumer, at the end of the day, it's just not profitable. So after, to me, it's a great ambition. I'm very much pro supporting it, and if I would be very smart, I would probably be working in that field and you know, try to influence policy. But I'm not smart, so from that side, I'll try to deal with what's there, right? At the same time, I think it's a very nice marketing tagline, but the reality on ground, and also for the foreseeable future, I don't see as optimistic in it. We're still going to struggle to move. I mean, recently I've been on a flight from Nairobi to Kinshasa. I paid $600. That was before the war in Ukraine. $600 for a 3 hours flight. What are we talking about? You know, so after, yes, I'm a big advocate. I would love to do more. Is it realistic? I don't think so, to liberalize 54 countries. Can we do something in our local markets? Yes, we can strengthen our local blocks. Let's make our local blocks work. But I think, and now maybe it's a bit provocative, being European, looking at, let's say, African markets, maybe I can take the liberty to say that. But as long as we do not stop thinking about ourselves first, we will not get anywhere, you know, when it comes to liberalizing our interconnectivity, right? Because in the end of the day, you have to compromise, right? Yes, protectionism is good in some areas, for some countries, but protectionism should not end up in greed. You know, and I think that's what we see across a lot of countries where they don't agree. And then we waste a lot of money and especially a lot of time. So for businesses, time is money. So we have to still find our ways, you know, to do business with each other.
Yeah, interesting about protectionism. Sometimes you wonder what you're protecting. I mean, coming from Tanzania, sometimes we get into conversation like we are Tanzanians, they're Kenyans, and I don't know what to say. I'm just most of the time I'm like, well, what's the big deal? What are we like even arguing about? Because at the end of the day, we need to find a common ground and just do business. Because if both Tanzania and Kenya are importing tons amount of things that probably could be produced locally, why can we not team up and try to reduce that by producing some of those things locally? Anyway, so anyway, conversation about project. I'm not gonna dive into that much. Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe also the participants may be interested on how can SMEs position themselves strategically so that they can be able to become potential partners for those looking to invest in Africa, because this is probably one of the areas you might be quite knowledgeable, considering that you're bringing investors at least most of the time.
Yeah. So let me answer that question from two angles. One is when we talk about investors, we often talk about expansion projects. Yes. So international firms trying to expand to a market, looking for a partner. And let's not get it twisted. A joint venture, for instance, it's a marriage, And think about how long it took you to sue your madam to become your wife. It's marriage for life, Yes. It's nothing you just do for the sake of doing it, right? You have to be committed. You have to be serious about what's going on. And so I think if you look into that narrative, I think a lot of companies are underestimating what they're selling off, which is the assets, which is their knowledge, their market access. I mean, when we work with international clients, I mean, the key thing that they struggle with is local market knowledge, right? Local market access. Our markets here are very much informal. How do I crack the informal market, right? I don't need to go to the big supermarkets, the ShopRites, the whatever they're called, Carrefours, The money is being made on the roads, on the streets. If you sell sausages in Lagos traffic, you can become a millionaire. You don't because that's where you meet the people. I don't think there are more visitors at the ShopRite in Lagos than there are on traffic on the third mainland bridge. You reach more clients. Yes. So that's your market. That's who you sell. And if you come as an international investor, you don't understand that. You come there and you see the street hawkers and think, oh, what are they selling? But these guys are in big business. Yeah. So if you now go for a joint venture, what you're selling off is your knowledge, right? That knowledge that you develop over the years, that you build contacts. Because I often refer to our markets here. We have a handshake culture. If you go meet someone, you shake hands, you drink coffee, beers, or whatever you want to drink, and you trust, right? We're very much trust driven. And that's nothing you can just build by entering a new market and say, oh, here I am, I have a great product. Fantastic. What else? Let's ask the question, Being German, we often speak to what they call themselves world market leaders, hidden champions. A hidden champion is someone who makes 3 billion turnover in a year, is hardly known in public, but you use the products almost on a daily basis. That's a hidden champion. We have about 1,200 of those alone in Germany, right? When they come to Africa, they say, yeah, look, we've been doing business across the globe. Now we come to Kenya, or we come to Nigeria, come to South Africa. Everyone should buy our products. Okay, fair enough. But what else? What about the after service? What about, are you there if my machine breaks down? You're world market leader, fantastic. But, if I don't get spare parts here, why do I need you? Yeah, so it's always the mentality of what else, what's next. Now, when it comes to the other side of investment, and I think that's probably also a bit more relevant for the audience, into startups, SMEs, right? I'm actually trying to figure out whether or not I or we have a space in investing into companies. And the main trigger here is to see how many great ideas we have here and how many challenges we have to solve. Because, you know, a good startup solves a very realistic challenge or problem.
Yes.
Right. And understands that problem. Now, our key issue here is money. Right. You find the hustler who invests his, I don't know, $1,000 into everything he has into a business, and then he needs to make revenue. Once you don't have revenue, you have nothing to fall on, right? Our mortgage systems, okay, not mortgage, but our loan systems on the continent are ridiculous. Sorry to say, right? You do not build a business built on finance on the continent. It's suicide. Right? Yeah. So you're looking for external money. Now, what we see a lot is someone with a nice portfolio comes and says, great, I'll give you $100,000. Scale your business. Fantastic. You're over the moon once you hear that. $100,000. Great. Not knowing $100,000 in, let's say, the US, where the money might come from, is an average annual salary. Mm-hmm. Now hire someone with that knowledge. You have one person that you invest in. Okay, now we are on the continent, maybe you have 2 people. That's it. How do you scale? You don't scale, right? At the same time, you sold what? 40% equity. It's gone. You know, that equity is gone. It's your human capital that is gone. Someone bought it for $100,000. Yeah. Which in African standards is still a lot of money. Like if you look into how VCs are investing, getting 100,000 is decent, you know. Yeah. Unless you're the flutter waves who, you know, have crazy valuations and so on, no one can prove. They walked the talk very smoothly, very clever. Yeah, but for a young entrepreneur, 100,000, I take it for sure. 40%, no problem. You know, but what you don't understand, or I think what people don't understand, is you're selling your soul. Yeah? Why did Mark Zuckerberg not sell Facebook for a few billions 5 years when he went into business? Because he was cocky enough to say, well, this thing is much bigger than what you offer me. Right? And I think here in the continent, I think we are lacking this confidence sometimes. You know, to say we build something great, we have a massive problem. We actually cracked something. We have a solution, maybe not on the level yet, but if I get it right, the sky is the limit. Yeah. You know, and someone to tap into that knowledge. And we all know how difficult. Coming back to the very first question, why a difficult market? Yeah. It becomes difficult if you start hitting regulators. It starts getting difficult if you struggle with power. If you start getting difficult if it's hot outside and you run around in a suit trying to meet your meeting because there's traffic outside and you cannot move. Yeah. That's difficult. Yeah. But someone who gives you money from overseas doesn't appreciate that. You know, no. If you're 5 minutes late to a Zoom call, you don't take me serious. That's the answer. Yeah, but you've been trying to tether, you've been trying to discharge your phone because just power left 1 minute before you enter the meeting. Yeah. It's our reality. Yeah. So, and now think about, you get $100,000 for that. That's not what it's worth. It's worth much more. Yeah. You know, imagine that person who gives you that money, how much he would pay to have a AC room, a consistent power supply, and whatnot. Yeah, you know, the cost is much higher. How often do I hear, like, from clients that, oh, you're too expensive? Yes, I'm expensive, but I have a reason for why I'm expensive, right? It's because I have to mitigate all the risks that are along the way, right? And now you're a business owner and you're getting a lousy 100,000. I mean, please. You don't respect my trade. Yeah. So what we are trying to do, to cut the story short, is we want to get away from startups selling their soul, which is equity. What we need is cash. Yeah. I don't need someone to sell me a fairy tale and say, I give 40% and then you go rich you want, you know. Why should I spend 100% and I only get 60%? Doesn't make sense. Yeah. So people need cash, people need money. So, and that's called debt financing, right? Why don't I invest into a company? If I believe they're so great, I get my debt. I get my 7%, 8%, which is way below average of any central bank on the continent. That's good money, right? And now I can give you the option, and you can buy 10% of my company once I scaled. Then we don't talk 100,000, we talk 1 million. That's how simple it is.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'll probably want to hear that when you guys are ready doing that, because with the network that we're building at the moment with SMEs, I'd like to be one of the cheers to advocate that. We'd love to see that also seeping through to those who are working with us. Maybe because I've asked quite a lot of questions, so we do have Sidika, who has been here last time, so it's great to see at least someone who has been in our last session. Anyone with a question, please go ahead and shoot straight. So it's time for Q&A.
The first one's always the hardest, you know. The first question is always the hardest.
So while we're waiting for someone to raise their hand, or you can even simply unmute yourself and ask a question. I think what is the role of learning for small or medium enterprise owner? What could you talk, because this is something probably I as an enterprise owner, as a startup owner, you probably need to learn quite a lot, different things, especially when you're starting your business. What would you consider to the learning? How did the learning play a role in you growing your business to where you are? Because I'm sure you did not start by hiring people to help you with marketing and helping you with sales and so forth. Yeah.
I think it's a consistent learning curve, right? It's whenever you think you understood, something else comes around the corner, right? So it's that consistency of learning, but I think also to how do you call it? Like to shift your learnings into action, right? Because what happens a lot is, let's say you can learn something, but if you don't change anything, nothing is going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think that's why I love the continent is there's so many things that you might not have considered.
Yeah.
Once you started off with anything. Right. And even if you're just getting an Uber from A to B, there might be a roadblock, and now what? You know? Yeah. So, but if you take the same road twice, you know, okay, maybe that roadblock comes up. So my learning is, let me divert, let me put a different pin, and we take it from the other route. So I think that's really key in whatever you do. It's consistent learning, and I think it's also more importantly about being open to learn, because me being as a European founder in Africa, what I often see is particularly, let's say, old school managers on the continent. They don't give you that room. They don't give you that space to learn. It's either you know it or you go, you know, because you just get another one. But the biggest cost to any business, I strongly believe, is training people. You know, so if I train them, why should I let them go? Yeah. If they don't bring the quality, then I, as a manager, have done a mistake. Yeah. I did not manage to tease their potential out of them, right? And I think that's what it comes down to, right? Because it's like in German we say it's like how high can a horse jump? A good horse only jumps above the barrier, not way above the barrier.
Yeah.
Because why should I? Right? But if you're that person that enjoys, and in the end also, I mean, that's what it comes down to, is being rewarded or is being appreciated, then you jump much higher. You know, I think that's what it's all about. So it's consistent learning. There's so many things here, I think, that are surprising. They just happen, you know. So how do you deal with them, and how do you make sure next time you have that side covered as well? I think that's the key.
Yeah. So anyone with a question or addition, please go ahead. We don't want to be the only ones who are talking.
Yeah, can I add something?
Yes, please go ahead.
Alfred, thank you so much for this organizing this program, and a good evening to Mr. Holger. I would just like to add something. As an entrepreneur myself, what we do is the journal experiences that we normally micromanage. So it's very difficult. I mean, we are learning. I mean, I'm learning. The delegation thing is that we do not, normally keep trust on the staff, or we fear that they won't do the right thing. Probably training is one of the challenge, especially in Tanzania. You find that not many bachelor holders or education or skill is there. So we train them slowly, and they come and we do micromanage them. So that's one of the biggest challenge. And for the startups, yes, finance is one of the biggest challenge, and how to manage it and how to plan all these things. So SMEs usually face this kind of challenges, especially for staffs or our HR, our human resource. So education and again, skills is important. And well, the thing is that we think that like our grandfathers used to do the business, and the father and the third generation. So it's going same, but the information technology, the boom is so much with the technology that we are losing out on doing the old style of business. We need to move to the new way of, just the way we are on a Zoom right now. Before COVID, nobody even thought that we could have somebody in Kenya or somebody in Nigeria and joining the programs, So technology is giving a big boom to the business. And if we don't move with the pace, I think we might be wiped out,
Definitely.
Very true. And I think, maybe just one comment on that. I think I always say, yes, micromanaging is a problem, and it's not easy to let go. Yeah. But I always tell myself, what's the worst that can happen? Yeah. And what's surprising is, if you experience failure yourself, like if you experienced it, you see the consequences of if things do not work. That's the strongest learning you can get. You'll not do it again, because you realize, oh my God, like it's shameful, like what I've done, or it was painful, or whatever it was, And I think, but yeah, it's really, this micromanaging is a habit. I think a lot of owners, it's the hardest part, I think, to let go of. I come back to your narrative, Alfred, of your baby. But once you see a baby walk, it will fall down again for sure. But he'll stand up. Let it walk.
Thank you, Sadiq, for that addition. Maybe one more addition from anyone else. We'll close in like 6 minutes, I think, if I'm on time. Yes, Fatima, please go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for this Zoom meeting. I was hesitant to join in at first, but on hearing everything that has been spoken about by Holger and Alfred, I actually wanted to apply to AMENA, and I just felt I couldn't, because I don't know, it was a field I wanted to enter into, but I think I just lost my nerve. I think there was a language restriction, and I'm in Kaduna State, which is far from Lagos, so it was just all up in the air. But in hearing you guys speak, I'm just like, oh, wow. This is exactly what I believe in about the continent. I'm very passionate about business owners, being a former entrepreneur, then working for government, then going back, due to COVID, going back to working on my own consulting for small businesses. And I just could draw parallels, even though it's on a smaller section or smaller scale. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this meeting. I might put in an application for for a job, but yes, I really, I can't even, I was looking at a book that I have, Africa's Business Revolution, and I'm just like, oh, it took a lot of guts for Holger to come in to the African continent and decide to take on Africa with all the risks and try to consult for businesses. So I'll just say, well done. Thank you again for this. I would keep on keeping up with all the news and goings on at your company. I felt all the jabs and digs that Holger gave us Africans. Yeah, but sometimes the truth is bitter. But yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. I'm feeling very humbled that people want to work with us. That's always a great honor. So I can tell you, like, we just hired our new country manager in Nigeria, and you're right, he's based in Lagos. He's from Delta State, actually. So one of the troublemakers, how I would say. But Kaduna, the north, is very interesting for us. So even, Maiduguri and all those areas, which people would consider like a dangerous zone to go to. We actually do some research there. So we'll need people on ground who know their way around. So why not? I mean, send us a message and then we can see how that could work out. But always great to hear people considering joining us. Yeah, we're very privileged to be on that level.
Thank you, Fatima. Which means also I get the credit because Holger came here for this session, and then suddenly he's getting talents as well. So thank you so much, everyone. I am not sure if there's any other addition or question. So I think maybe Holger, if you can close with a few words, any last message for participants and those who will be listening to this session, which will be posted on our YouTube channel.
Great. I mean, thank you, Alfred, first of all, for inviting me. It's definitely been great being here. I think, so if you give me the last few words, I think I would just like to encourage everyone, who does business on the continent, who are running businesses, who are maybe thinking about running businesses. I think just do it. Like, there's nothing much we can lose. And it's, I think, was it Fatima called about the revolution? Like, I think we're really at that age. We are witnessing that industrialization, that revolution of tech, Africa being at the forefront. I mean, we have everything here, so what are we waiting for? For who, And at the same time, I think also when it comes to entrepreneurs, don't sell out your assets for what? Right? You have everything it takes. Grow it. Yes, it's a struggle. Yes, you might just have another, I don't know, a few bucks in your pocket to make it to next month. Okay, great. It's hard, right? Tap into all your networks, but don't sell to the first person who comes around the corner and says, great, because trust me, like once the first person says yes, 10 other people are lining up to say yes too, and they give you bigger tickets. So really, build the confidence And let's be proud of what we achieve here, because it's not easy. Yeah, it's you said it right in the beginning, and I made a bit of fun with it, Alfred. Difficult, yes, it is difficult, and it's a hustle, right? It's not for everyone, and we saw a lot of companies failing here, right? But I think it's all about consistency. It's all about your passion, and in the end, it's your belief. Do you believe in what you do, and do you believe in our continent? Okay, I'm saying our continent, it's your continent, but I consider myself part of it.
You have been here you've been here the longest than anywhere else.
It's almost halftime in that sense, but no, it's great. So I think, again, you know, don't hesitate, and it's also about us connecting, right? It's the power of connection. I mean, how many people live in diaspora? How many people live on the continent and come out every single day? We have to get it. We have to get it done, right? And let's not wait for our leaders to do anything. It's us, right? It's the private sector who will drive this continent ahead. So let's build on it, and very much looking forward to connect everyone who's been here today. And Alfred, it's been a pleasure for sure. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Holger. And thank you everyone for attending this session, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.